The time is just gone 12 minutes past 8 a.m. and this morning kicking off on News and Views, looking at Matric results. And we've heard about these results not being available on media publications or online. Now, traditionally, we know Matric results appeared in newspapers, and every time the results came out, we know about learners camping at newspaper outlets, and all of this is history now. This is as a result of POPIA, which is mainly to do with protecting personal information. And to take this discussion further, we joined by Jane Boorman, who is a researcher, and she's with equal education researcher, Jane Boorman. Jane, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Jane, those days are gone. You know, when we looked at traditional Matric results coming out, newspapers, families grabbing hold of newspapers, some of them sold out, and we are now in a completely different space. We've heard about the announcement that these results for 2021 will not be available on online or in media publications.
Yes, so it seems, POPIA has been a long time in the making. And, you know, obviously it's an act that was the drafting started, as far back as 2009. But this is the first year that it will come into effect. And essentially what that means is that the Department of Basic Education is, trying to follow the protocol of not releasing personal information to the public, and therefore is withholding the results in the newspaper. So essentially they are complying with law, though I have seen some people argue that this is a hasty or unnecessary step.
Yes, in fact, I'm just trying to think of the wisdom and the thinking behind protecting personal information and how this actually ties in with Matric results. Now, just how personal would that information be as far as a learner and his or her Matric results go, Jane?
Well, it was actually interesting. I was speaking to a friend yesterday. We were just talking about it, and she was recalling how stressful she found it to feel that her, anybody could look at her results, or that her results are public. So I think there is a component that is very important to remember, that for many learners, to publish in the newspaper is all about access, to make sure that learners have access to the results, to make sure that they can get them quickly. There are other ways of doing that. And so, at Equal Education, we do want to protect learners' mental health, specifically at the time of COVID. Now, this is obviously happening because the POPI Act came out. It's not really related to COVID, but there is mental stress and potentially shame involved if you haven't passed, or you are struggling with your results, that this might, for students, be a more stressful experience to feel that their results are just published in the papers and anybody can read them. So we do strongly feel that learners' mental health should be prioritized, and that as long as they have full access to their results and easy access to the results in another manner, that publishing them in the newspaper perhaps is not actually the best for learners in general.
Well, obviously newspapers is one thing, but the issue surrounding online not being available online now, we know we do so much online these days, whether it's banking, whatever we do. We are on the technological highway. Now, clearly there could have been, some solution for students, password controls. These are the type of things that, banks are using. We see so much security from an online perspective. Now, clearly, how would POPIA be compromised with these results being made available online?
Yeah, I completely agree. They're definitely, and perhaps this is the first year, and we'll see further down the line that things evolve. But definitely, some solutions to this problem to make sure that learners have access is, like you said, password controlled. Additionally, you can have a situation where SMSs could be sent out, or to learners specifically, or there is some form of online communicated way. I don't think that the solution necessarily means that all learners have to come into school and receive a hard copy. So I think that perhaps, and again, I am speculating here, taking it out of the newspapers is maybe the first step to developing a system that the DBE feels both respects learners' privacy, meets the legal requirements of POPI, but also makes sure that learners have easy access to this information. So
Yes,
we'll see. We'll see.
Well, I suppose the key issue here is the ID number, because we know that matriculants' ID numbers have been used to release or publish these results, Shane.
Mm. Yes, exactly. And so, I mean, in those contexts, essentially what you, and again, my understanding of POPI, you might have legal specialists that have a completely different perception, but it has to be that the information is protected to the degree that someone of the public wouldn't be able to access the information needed to access your results. So, I imagine the Department of Basic Education is finding a way that allows them to respect the rule of the law and allow easy access. I mean, yeah, there are other options, and it is unfortunate. I see that newspapers were told last minute, and obviously that has cost implications for them. And so it definitely hasn't been ideal in terms of the process. It obviously is an important, media houses are struggling in this digital age, and this was an important moment for them. Like you said,
Exactly.
people camping out, and that is something that really needs to be looked at. Yeah, it's tricky. It's obviously a balance, and at Eco Education, our main priority is learners' health and well-being. And I do think it is stressful for learners to feel that their results are public, specifically if they've failed, specifically some subjects, or perhaps even the year. But I think that, going forward, the Department of Basic Education has to see how this played out, and whether or not this was workable. And also, I mean, I'm sure they have consulted with lawyers, but, opinions change. And I have seen some lawyers say that there is a way to do it that does fully protect the personal information of learners. So, I'm not entirely sure where it will go and how it will evolve, but Eco Education, we are pleased that we feel that learners don't have to go through the stress of feeling that everyone can see their results in the paper.
Yes. Now, Jane, we're about a week away from when these results are going to be released. We have learned they're going to be released on the 21st of January. And clearly, this is a short notice, because it does obviously put learners and also families in an awkward situation. Particularly, we know that people move around as well, and going to their schools to go and collect their results. It does place them in an awkward situation, but also I think it becomes a logistical nightmare at times.
Yes, completely. And I must say, I'm not entirely sure. I can't imagine that schools don't, or the Department of Basic Education doesn't have in place a system that would allow them to reach out to learners. But again, that is likely to be imperfect. And, there's two really big things that we think are big priorities in this discussion. One, protecting learners' personal information, which will help protect their mental health and, protect from the stress of feeling that their results are public. But two, learners have to have access to the results. I mean, that adds also a complete other layer of stress for learners who, have a delay in reaching their results. And unfortunately, we're in a little bit of uncharted territory here, and it, we'll be monitoring very, very closely whether learners have issues with getting their results, in which case if the Department of Basic Education is going to move forward with not publishing it, we need to have alternative systems, whether it's a proper online portal with passwords, etc., so that it's fully secure, whether it's SMSs in some form that go directly to the learner's number. There has to be a system that allows learners to access their results easily, because that adds additional stress. So it's weighing those two, and yeah, we're monitoring very closely what happens over this period.
Well, I suppose it's going to be quite interesting, because this has been an 11th hour notification. And a week is not enough if this was communicated to the learners at the end of the exams, that this is going to be a situation. People could have made the necessary arrangements. And like I say, is there are many people that move around. They move from province to province, and just how convenient or how easy or difficult it's going to be for them to have access to those results, particularly when they are out of town or they're not living in the same town, city, or even in province.
Yes, and that is a very, very big concern, and we are kind of we obviously have organizers in different provinces that are in touch with a lot of learners, specifically a lot of matric learners, and we are waiting for the feedback of learners in terms of how this has impacted them receiving their results. I think in many, it is not ideal to have told or made people aware, newspapers aware, learners aware at such a late point that the way that they thought they were going to access their results is not the way that they will. That's less than ideal. Perhaps the Department of Basic Education was scrambling to do what they felt was legal in terms of POPI. And I think, POPI is a new act, and the way people interpret it or their understanding of the requirements might change a little bit over the time. I have no doubt the Department of Basic Education felt this is what they needed to do to comply with the law, but they should have foreseen this ages ago. This act has been coming for a long time. They could have properly communicated. They could have set up a secure alternative plan, and so that is what we will need to see. If it's not in the newspapers, which obviously has benefits for learners, there has to be another way to easily communicate it. And yeah, we'll be monitoring that very closely. Because obviously we don't want that for learners at all.
Yes, apart from just monitoring, Jane, is there any support that you and your organization as Equal Education, are you able to offer any support to learners who may pick up problems?
So yeah, again, it's I think that is going to play itself out. I'm not entirely sure. We have organization groups in different schools, so we have an eye on what's happening in different schools in different provinces, and I'm not aware, as it stands, of any learner who has, and again, I could just not know. There could be learners who have contacted us to say, I don't know how I'm going to get my results, and please help us with that. And definitely we'll monitor what happens over this period, and if there are significant issues, we will have to step in, whether it's advocating to the Department of Basic Education or trying to think of workable solutions, because as we know, COVID has been a very stressful time for learners, particularly these matrics who did grade 11 during the pandemic, matric during the pandemic. And yeah, the thought of them having to go through the additional stress of not knowing their results because they're unable to access them is absolutely unacceptable. But as it stands now, I don't think Equal Education has any specific plans in place to try and bridge that. And we'll kind of have to see how it goes.
Well, Jane, we appreciate you taking time out, talking to us this morning. We wish you all the best, and please take care.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Jane Boorman joining us this morning, Equal Education researcher, and this comes against a background of matric results that will be coming out next week. But once again, they're not available online or in newspapers. You will have to collect them from your schools. The time is just gone 8:25. We come back, we'll be joined by Maulana Muhammad Saeed Nablaki, the South African National Halal Authority, SENHA, urging the Muslim community to stop spreading fake news about halal certification.